guys, we're back with another video. We're gonna keep reading. I'm almost done the book that I might have wrote. Yeah, so anyways, so we'll continue where we left off from the last reading video. Okay, so basically it finished with there might have been tragedy in the situation, but the gunslinger did not see that. He saw only the predestination that had always been there, and finally his more natural character reasserted itself and he slept deeply with no dreams. That's where we left off. Alright, so the climb became grimmer. On the following day, as they continued to an angle toward the narrow V of the pass through the mountains, the gunslinger pushed slowly, still with no sense of hurry. The dead stone beneath their feet left no trace of the man in black, but the gunslinger knew he had been this way before them, not only from the path of his climb, as he and Jake had observed him, tiny and bug-like from the foothills. His aroma was printed on every cold down draft of air. It was an oily, sardonic odor, as bitter to the nose as the stench of the devil grass. Jake's hair had grown much longer, and it curled slightly at the base of his sunburned neck. He climbed, tough, moving with surefootedness and apparent acrophobia, as they crossed gaps or scaled their way up ledges facings. Twice already he'd gone up in places the gunslinger could not have imagined, and anchored one of the ropes so the gunslinger could climb up hand over hand. The following morning they climbed through a coldly damp snatch of cloud that blotted out the tumbled slopes below them. Patches of hard granulated snow began to appear, nestled in some of the deeper pockets of stone. It glittered like quartz, and its texture was as dry as sand. That afternoon they found a single footprint in one of these snow patches. Jake stared at it for a moment with awful fascination, and then looked up frightfully, as if expecting to see the man in black materialize into his own footprint. The gunslinger tapped him on the shoulder then and pointed ahead. Go, the day's getting old. Later, they made camp in the last of the daylight on the wide, flat edge of the east and north of the cut that slanted into the heart of the mountains. The air was frigid, and they could see the puffs of their breath and the humid sound of thunder, and the red and purple afterglow of the day was surreal, slightly lunatic. The gunslinger thought the boy might begin to question him, but there was no question from Jake. The boy fell almost immediately into sleep. The gunslinger followed his example. He dreamed again of Jake as an alabaster saint with a nail through his forehead. He awoke with a gasp, tasting the coldness of altitude in his lungs. Jake was asleep beside him, but his sleep was not easy. He twisted and mumbled to himself, chasing his own phantoms. The gunslinger lay over uneasily and slept again. Excuse me. A week after Jake saw the footstep, they faced the man. A week after Jake saw the footstep, they faced the man in black for a brief moment in time. In that moment, the gunslinger felt he could almost understand the implication of the tower itself. That moment seemed to stretch out forever. They continued southeast, reaching a point perhaps halfway through the Cyclopean mountain range. And just as the going seemed about to become really difficult for the first time, above them, seeming to lean out the icy ledges and screaming buttis, made the gunslinger feel unpleasant, reverse vertigo. They began to descend again along the side of the narrow pass. An angular, zigzagging path led them toward a canyon floor, where an ice edge stream boiled with slaty headlong power from higher country still. On that afternoon, the boy paused and looked back at the gunslinger, who had paused to wash his face in the stream. I smell him, Jake said. So do I. Ahead of them, the mountain threw up its final defense, a huge slab of insurmountable granite facing that climbed into cloudy infinity. At any moment, the gunslinger expected a twist in the stream to bring them upon a high waterfall and the insurmountable smoothness of rock dead end. But the air here had that odd magnifying quality that is common to high places, and it was another day before they reached that great granite face. The gunslinger began to feel the tug of anticipation again, the feeling that it was all finally in his grasp. He'd been through this before many times, and still he had to fight himself to keep from breaking into an eager trot. Wait, the boy said. The boy had stopped suddenly. They faced at a sharp elbow bend in the stream. It boiled and frothed around the eroded hang of a giant sandstone boulder. All that morning they had been in the shadow of the mountains as the canyon narrowed. Jake was trembling violently and his face had gone pale. What's the matter? Let's go back, Jake whispered. Let's go back, quick. The gunslinger's face was wooden. Please? The boy's face was drawn and his jawline shook with a suppressed agony. Through the heavy blanket of stone they still heard thunder, as steady as machines in the earth. The slice of sky they could see had itself assumed a turbulent Gothic gray above them, as warm and cold currents met and warred. Please, please, the boy raised a fist as if to strike the gunslinger's chest. No. The boy's face took on wonder. You're going to kill me? He killed me the first time, and you're going to kill me this time? And I think you know it. The gunslinger felt a lie on his lips when he spoke it. You'll be all right. And a greater lie yet. I'll take care. Jake's face went gray, and he said no more. He put an unwilling hand out. He and the gunslinger went around the elbow bend that way, hand in hand. On the other side, they came face to face with that final rising wall and the man in black. He stood no more than 20 feet above them, just to the right of the waterfall that crashed and spilled from a huge ragged hole in the rock. Unseen wind rippled and tugged at his hooded robe. He held a staff in one hand. The other hand he held out to them in a mocking gesture of welcome. He seemed a prophet, and below that rushing sky, mounted on a ledge of rock, a prophet of doom. His voice, the voice of Jeremiah. Gunslinger, how well you fulfill the prophecies of old. Good day, and good day, and good day, he laughed and bowed, the sound echoing over the bellow of the falling water. Without a thought, the gunslinger had drawn his pistols. The boy cowered to his right, and behind a small shadow. Roland fired 3 times before he could gain control of his traitor hands. The echoes bounced their bronze tones against the rock valley and rose around them, over the sound of wind and water. A spray of granite puffed over the head of the man in black, a second to the left of his hood, and a third to the right. He had missed cleanly all 3 times. The man in black laughed, a full, hearty laugh that seemed to challenge the receding echo of gunshots. Would you kill all your answers so easily, gunslinger? Come down, the gunslinger said. Do that, I beg ya, and we'll have answers all around. Again, that huge derisive laugh. It's not your bullets I fear, Roland. It's your idea of answers that scares me. Come down. We'll speak on the other side, I think, the man in black said. On the other side we will hold much counsel and long palaver. His eyes flicked to Jake, and he added, just the 2 of us. Jake flinched away from him with a small whining cry, and the man in black turned his robe, swirling in the gray air like a bat wing. He disappeared into the cleft in the rock, from which the water spewed at full force. The gunslinger exercised grim will and did not send a bullet after him. Would you kill all your answers so easily, gunslinger? There was the only sound of wind and water, a sound that had been in this place of desolation for 1,000 years. Yet the man in black had stood there, 12 years after his last glimpse. Roland had seen him close up again, had spoken to him, and the man in black had laughed. On the other side we will hold much counsel and long palaver. The boy looked up at him, his body trembling. For a moment the gunslinger saw the face of Allie, the girl from Tull, superimposed over Jake's, the scar standing out on her forehead like a mute accusation, and felt brute loathing for them both. It wouldn't occur to him until much later that both the scar on Alice's forehead and the nail he saw spike through Jake's forehead in his dreams were in the same place. Jake perhaps caught a whiff of his thought. A moan slipped through his throat, and he twisted his lips and cut the sound off. He held the makings of a fine man, perhaps a gunslinger in his own right, if given time. Just the two of us. The gunslinger felt a great and unholy thirst in some deep unknown pit of his body. One no draught of water or wine could touch. Worlds trembled almost within reach of his fingers, and in some instinctual way he strove not to be corrupted, knowing in his colder mind that such strife was vain and always would be. In the end there was only Ka. It was noon. He looked up, letting the cloudy, unsettled daylight shine for the last time on the all too vulnerable sun, on his own righteousness. No one ever really pays for betrayal in silver, he thought. The price of any betrayal always comes due in flesh. Come with me or stay, the gunslinger said. The boy responded to this with a hard and humorless grin, his father's grin. Had he but known it. And I'll be fine if I stay, he said. Fine all by myself here in the mountains. Someone will come and save me. They'll have cake and sandwiches, coffee, and a thermos too. Do you say so? Come with me or stay, the gunslinger repeated. He felt something happen in his mind. An uncoupling. That was the moment at which the small figure before him ceased to be Jake, and became only the boy, an impersonality to be moved and used. Something screamed in the windy stillness. He and the boy both heard. The gunslinger became to climb, and after a moment Jake came after. Together they mounted the tumbled rock beside the steely cold falls, and stood where the man in black had stood before them, and together they entered in where he had disappeared. The darkness swallowed them. Alright, it's getting good. It's getting good. So, yeah, that's it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I was more loud this time. If it's too loud, leave a comment, let me know. I could be more quiet. Like, this is more just a normal volume. But some ASMRs are good like that. Like, you could just turn the volume down a bit. There's no abrupt sounds or anything. So, anyways, let me know what you guys think. Sorry I'm in a tank top. If you guys are here still, it's like 30 degrees. The wood stove, it's like really warm outside. So anyways, hope you guys have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one.